after a while, we actually started to grow. And all of a sudden, we went from this small little company in our front room to selling to 500 stores, doing multi-million dollars in business, having 35 employees, being represented by 7 showrooms, dressing all of the A-list celebrities from the Kardashians to Jessica Alba to Jennifer Lopez, like you name it, all the it girls being on the red carpet. And we really started getting into the scene. So we grew it from this t-shirt brand to something real.
Hello and welcome back to my podcast. I get asked a lot about how I became an entrepreneur, and I thought, what better conversation to have than with 2 boss babe entrepreneur queens. So I'd like to introduce you guys to serial entrepreneurs, the Naven Twins, Kimber and Lex.
Hi, thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, let's just start with your stories, because I know a little bit about where you guys are from and what you do, but for those that don't, let's just kind of dive in.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, we're identical twins, and everything we've done together in business has been as an entrepreneurial, I call fempreneur duo. And Kimber and I kind of run different sides of all of our businesses. So it's been a really good organic kind of collaboration on everything we've done. But it's interesting looking back on where this kind of entrepreneurial spirit came from. We're originally from Canada, from Vancouver, and we grew up in a household where both of our parents were entrepreneurs. My mother was a goldsmith, had her own practice, her own shop in our home when we were kids, was independent, really grew her business on her own until her mid-30s. My father was this kind of interesting guy. He grew up super poor, 5 kids in the family, brothers, and didn't have a lot growing up. And he was kind of like the scrappy kid, but he started his career as a painter, a hippie in San Francisco. And then he transitioned to a professional boxer in Canada, and then jumped into the corporate world and became kind of this corporate chief, head of a $100 million company he had built. So he had this crazy lifestyle, and we kind of grew up at home with this ideal and pressure to really succeed, and the standard was set really high. So we, as a child, had sort of this pressure to be the best and to succeed and be overachievers. So it's really where it came from. And it's interesting in life how your life path starts with how you're raised at home. But it came from wanting to make my dad proud and really succeed at this kind of unattainable level that we saw at home with him and what he had created. So that's kind of where our roots came from. Mm-hmm. We were those girls in school that weren't playing with Barbies and dolls in elementary school. We were actually at my dad's office playing manager in the stock room. And we were competing in all of the sports before and after school, you know, such tomboys.
Tomboys, definitely a tomboys,
So that was us. We kind of took on the role of what a son would do, you know, trying to live in the footsteps of my father. So it was a very interesting dynamic. We had a lot of that drive when we were younger from our upbringing. And then what's else is really interesting is as we got a little bit older, my parents split up, they got divorced, and it really shook our world and our foundation in our home. And I know as adults, it's kind of naturalized and normalized to go through divorce. It's not a big deal, but as a child, it really does kind of create these childhood traumas in you. And subconsciously you carry that through life. And it became sort of a toxic environment at home. There's a lot of anger, a lot of abandonment issues, feeling sort of like we weren't enough. And so we rarely saw my dad. He moved to London and started a new family. And we really felt this sort of abandonment, we really felt this sort of abandonment issues and not feeling enough. So we carried that on throughout our young life. And then at school, Kim was kind of in her own field at school.
Yeah, I was a total nerd in high school. I was sort of a loner. I was in computer immersion when laptops were a new thing. So I was really creative, and I was sort of creative on my own, but I was bullied pretty badly in high school, so I switched schools. So we actually were pretty independent in high school. We didn't spend a lot of time together, but I started to really get into fashion and I started designing. I was in all the advanced fashion classes. I started to tailor shop in high school. I would make wedding dresses and prom dresses for my friends and actually get paid to do it. And that's how we really got into fashion originally. And later on, I ended up applying to design school and I got into FITM in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and in high school, I was sort of that uber nerd head of my biology class in advanced college classes, like just super nerd. And we actually got bullied really bad by boys in high school, verbally and physically. So it was traumatic at school and then kind of toxic at home. So we really had this feeling of confusion when we were younger, like just really not feeling good enough, feeling insecure, feeling like we were always seeking validation from people around us for affection to fit in. And so the reason I bring this up is not to kind of dwell on the past, but that sometimes you can use those childhood traumas as fuel, as fire to help you succeed. So we really took that, and you find this a lot in the creation story of a lot of amazing companies, as the founders have gone through this thing where they have something to prove.
So I think we really felt like we had something to prove, not just to other people, but really to ourselves.
I agree. And so I think that the point of that is you can really use some of those traumas as fuel and fire to succeed. And so we had something to prove to ourselves. We wanted to make our dad proud. We wanted to show the people in school who had wronged us and not believed in us that we could do it. So we used that, and we actually moved as fast as we could out of Canada after high school and moved to the US. But I think that's where it all started and where our journey started, just knowing that we really wanted to achieve big things with our lives. So we moved to California.
Well, actually, I moved to California first. I moved by myself. My sister stayed in Whistler and snowboarded every day for a year and took the year off. She was such a good student in high school. I definitely wasn't as good as a student as she was. I got good grades, but I skipped a lot of school. I'm not going to lie. But I was really involved in all of the design classes. I loved biology, but I was so good at designing, and that was definitely my passion. It just really came naturally to me. I think I started sewing at a really young age. I remember when I was a kid, my mom and I would make Halloween costumes together, and she'd teach me how to do patterns and how to sew. And for me, that was like one of my best memories of my childhood. So I really got into it, I think at around the age of 6 when I started sewing, and it's something I loved doing. Being really introverted in high school, it was something that I could do on my own and spend hours crafting and get really good at. So I always kind of knew I wanted to go into design, and I actually started designing snowboard clothes.
Oh, cool.
Coming from Canada, I was such a tomboy. I was an athlete. I played every sport: snowboard, skiing, soccer, gymnastics, vaulting, which is gymnastics on horses, kind of an interesting Canadian sport. And so I got into designing snowboard outerwear at a young age, and I applied to FITM in Los Angeles, downtown LA, and I got in. So I packed up all my stuff. As soon as I graduated high school, I drove in my little Honda and moved to LA. And I started designing. I started interning for Von Dutch and a few other companies, just getting as much experience in the design industry as I could. And I fell in love with designing, and I was really good at it. It came really naturally to me. I always knew I really wanted to start a clothing brand, and I convinced my sister to move to LA. We actually had kind of a crazy last few years of our high school. We stopped talking for a few years. We were really close. We had a lot of just traumatic stuff happen in our younger years. My parents getting divorced, and just like a lot of, I think, pain and resentment there with some other things that happened. And we kind of took it out on each other because we were so close.
Sometimes you do take it out on the people that are closest to you.
Especially being a twin, you're so close to that person. You know how to push their buttons. You know what you're feeling. We felt like we didn't have anywhere else to turn. So we actually got in a fight over a guy that we both liked and stopped talking for 3 years. But it wasn't about the guy. It was about just everything we're going through. And I moved to LA on my own. And I was getting on the freeway one day on my way to design school. I was on a break from lunch, and I hadn't spoken to my sister in probably about 6 months. I was getting on the freeway, a bus comes into my lane and crashes into my car, and my car just spins around on the freeway on-ramp, crashes into the side of the bus. I kind of come to, and I'm like checking myself to see if I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Get out of the car. My car's totaled, but I'm totally fine. And my sister calls me like seconds after it happened and asked me if I was okay, asked me what happened, and she just knew. And after that moment, we just hashed out everything. We were like, there's no point of ever fighting again. And I convinced her to move to LA, and
we got matching twin tattoos. Like a very cheesy story, but it really did heal our relationship. So I moved to LA really shortly after Kim did, and I went to Pepperdine. I did a double major in marketing and in languages, and just learned like the basics about business and marketing. Old school marketing would be considered old school now, but learned the basics. And then I went and jumped straight into the corporate world. So I took a totally different route than Kim. Kimber went into the creative field, and I just went into corporate. And I moved up really quickly in this marketing company, but I soon really recognized that the corporate structure is just so bad for you. And most people are unhappy, and it's just not healthy for your body or your mentality being so confined. And so I felt like a free bird in a cage. And pretty quickly into it, about 8 months, moving up really quickly in this company, I had a very clear vision that I wanted to start my own thing, and so did Kim, and we knew we wanted to work together. So in 2008, we launched Naven, and Naven is and was our first apparel brand, and it's a full contemporary line, and it was our first company. It's super funny how we kind of ran my first company. We did it totally bootstrapped.
Yeah.
So I took this business plan that I got as a template from one of my business classes at school, and I convinced my father to partner on a $10,000 investment. We were going to do a t-shirt line. And so we started running the company from our front room, and I hired my best friend as my one employee. So it was me and my sister, my best friend, running this company, and we literally did everything. We would make sales cold calls. We would do customer service calls as aliases. We would pack and ship all of our shipments out of our apartment, store inventory. It really was that sort of American hustle type of dream.
Our landlord hated us.
And then we would even go to sales meetings on the road. And
we would pack up all of our samples. We'd get in the car and we'd sit outside. We go to like 3rd Street where all the boutiques are, and we'd sit outside, give each other pep talk. We're like, okay, we can do this. So young, so green, so nervous to go in and like pitch ourselves and pitch the line. And we'd have our samples on our back, and we walk in the store and be like, hey guys, so we have a new clothing brand. We want to pitch you the line. And half the time they'd be like, thanks for stopping by. You guys are cute, but this isn't going to work. And then occasionally they would order a few pieces and sort of went from there. But it was a really good and fun learning experience. And looking back, I think it was a fun time.
It was totally bootstrapped. And so after a while, we actually started to grow. And all of a sudden, we went from this small little company in our front room to selling to 500 stores, doing multi-million dollars in business, having 35 employees, being represented by 7 showrooms, dressing all of the A-list celebrities from the Kardashians to Jessica Alba to Jennifer Lopez, like you name it, all the it girls being on the red carpet. And we really started getting into the scene. So we grew it from this t-shirt brand to something real. So I love this for any girl that's trying to start her own thing. Just know that you can do it, and you have to start somewhere. And honestly, learning all those invaluable skills, old school skills of like nurturing business relationships, really knowing how to sell, really knowing how to lead a meeting, traditional grassroots marketing. Those are all so important to know if you're starting your own thing. Nowadays, like a lot of Gen Zs and millennials get to bypass those steps going through tech and social, but this was before Instagram was around. So we really learned those valuable skills. So I think like maybe 6 years in, we started to really exponentially grow and scale our business. And we got to this point where a lot of companies see growing pains, and we had to export all of our manufacturing to China in order to be really price competitive, because we were making everything in the US. So during that time, that meant that we would have to stop shipping out our orders for a season, which is a lot for a company our size. So during that time, we were selling to Revolve, and we were one of their top brands, and they were one of our top accounts. So during that interim of having to take the season off, they approached us and they're like, will you guys collaborate with us? And of course we said yes. And so we launched our first of many collaborations in apparel called Embodied x Naven.
It's a house brand for Revolve, and it was so much fun. I loved, that was probably one of my favorite collaborations. Loved working with Revolve. We still,
Yeah. And so I think it was one of their first, or at the forefront of when they started their house brands. Now I think they probably have about 11. But it was fantastic for us. And they were just a phenomenal company to work with. They really represent and embody this authentic feeling of what their founders are, which is being this exclusive, like the coolest community to be in fashion. And so we were supposed to do a year with them. We ended up selling for 6 years because the collaboration was a hit. And we had felt just like in our own life that we had really hit a milestone. You know, we were at a high, we were making a lot of money, we were in the scene. We had filled this void that we felt, where we felt seen and represented, and we got this validation, being in like the IT club, if you will.
But I feel like deep down, it didn't really fill the void, because there was all of this suppressed stuff from our childhood that we never really dealt with. At least for me personally, I never really dealt with. And I saw it come out in like relationships, and both, you know, like personal relationships, and just suppressing things. And so for me, I think I started to go on this spiritual journey, and that's a really big part of why we started our skincare brand, which we launched about 2 years ago. I'm just looking for something more holistic in our life, just really caring about our health and our mental health, and not just, you know, how we feel mentally and physically. And I think that's how Koa really came about.
You're so right. Like, I think we hit a wall. You know, we thought we were kind of satisfying this like eternal thirst that we had to validate all these things from our past, but really under the surface, we were not that happy. And it just turns out like that money, making it, you know, those things don't fill the void. And so as we evolved as women, so did our taste and what we wanted for our life. Even our career path shift. There was a lot of shifts that were happening. And like Kim had found that those shifts were happening in mirrors of who she was in her relationship. For me, I think the shift happened when I started changing the conversation. So I started calling in different things. Instead of calling in making it and money and monetary things before that I started asking for not a tangible thing, but a feeling. I really wanted to wake up every morning feeling fulfilled, having that I'm excited to wake up, I'm excited to do another day of life, and just feel fulfilled. And I think that I wasn't getting that in our old life. So we decided to move to the beach from West Hollywood. Kim was on her spiritual journey. We both started practicing Nichiren Buddhism, which we still do to this day.
And like with Naven, yes, it was successful. It was very successful, but there was so many highs and lows. There were, you know, moments when we made a ton of money. We lost a ton of money. We made tons of mistakes. It was all trial and error. So it wasn't all, you know, rainbows and butterflies. It was really difficult. We had about 35 employees. We were kids running a business, basically. It was our first business. So, I mean, it was an amazing learning experience. The way we run our business now is completely different, but it was a lot of highs and lows. And I'm grateful for those moments, because it shows you what's really important. And I think that really, at least for me, set me on my personal journey, spiritual journey during those lows, trying to figure out why it was happening, what were my blockages, just doing a lot of work. And I've been super spiritual, and so have you since then. And I think it's really opened up a lot of our energetic pathways and allowed us to be happy and redefine what success looks like for us. Like, maybe it's not monetary, it's more of a feeling and a state of mind. I think more than anything, just happiness, feeling actually fulfilled and happy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think doing those things like having a mindful practice, incorporating meditation, just taking better care of our bodies, becoming biohackers, which is such a huge part of our life now, and testing out with natural supplementations, like those things really shifted in our life and created all of a sudden this regime of self-care, because we were burning the candle at both ends. You know, we were working day and night, managing a big team, out every night in Hollywood, kind of upholding this image and like having fun fun and letting loose, and also just enjoying, what we had created and being in the scene. But we hit a wall where we were just emotionally and physically burnt out. And then we had all these like underlying unresolved traumas from when we were younger, which tend to creep up on you, and you might think they're nothing, but all of a sudden they come out in a relationship, or they come out in some situation where they shouldn't be there, and you get so good at suppressing this trauma or these issues, and you have to bring it up to the surface to let it go, to let it purge. And so finally, for the first time in our life, we were doing all this personal work to just bring everything up to the surface and let it go, and this notion of self-care and healing kept coming up. So we took time off of work for the first time ever, a few months, to really analyze, what do we want to do? What intentionally do we want in our life? Like, what makes us feel fulfilled? And what do we want to offer as our next career move? So during...
And I almost, sorry to interrupt, I almost think that COVID was such a breaking point for us, a tipping point for us in the best way possible, because we had already been on this sort of journey to feel really fulfilled in life personally and really happy in life. And during COVID, you really were forced to stop everything and reanalyze your life, figure out what you really want. And it was at the time that we were creating our skincare brand, Koa. So it gave us that time to sort of brainstorm together and really take a moment, pause, and do that. Whereas we were on the go. We really didn't have time to stop and think about that before
we were on a hamster wheel, like so many people are, just like doing it because you're doing it, and not stopping and be like, oh, is this actually what I want? And it was great. It was a great part of our life path, and we still have Naven. It's just shifted slightly. But so during this time, we're like, the idea of self-care kept coming up, and we really felt like we wanted to be what we call a net positive. So making sure that our products were doing something positive for society and really healing on a deeper level the people that were involved in the company, us, and our customers. And we also wanted to utilize all of these natural supplements we had been using that Mother Nature has provided through biohacking. So we decided to start Koa Life, which is a doctor-formulated natural skincare line, and it's supercharged by plants and plant extracts. At the time, we were also both personally suffering from really bad problem skin that came about from just lifestyle and from stress, and in our early 30s, different hormone changes.
Hormonal acne, a lot, psoriasis, eczema. I think a lot of it comes out when you're really stressed out and you just have a lot on your plate. It's pretty normal, but it does happen a lot early or later on in life as well. But so we were suffering from all these skin issues, and we really just wanted a natural solution to cure these issues that were happening on our skin. You go to the dermatologist and they suggest things like cortisone and antibiotics and all these different chemical ways to treat your skin, which do work, but they're more of a quick fix, because long term they actually thin your skin and they give you fine lines and wrinkles, and it doesn't nourish and heal and make your skin stronger over time, which is what we're really trying to accomplish. So we use a lot of natural plant ingredients. We use things like hibiscus flower, which actually increases elasticity in your skin. It's nourishing, it's natural, it's healthy, it's anti-aging. We use things like full spectrum CBD, which is anti-inflammatory. It heals any kind of psoriasis and really helps with acne and different types of skin issues. Astragalus is amazing for decreasing the enzyme that actually breaks down collagen, so it's anti-aging. Things like shiitake mushroom is super hydrating. It's also really rich in antioxidants. All of these amazing natural plant-based ingredients that long-term heal your skin, just gives you that really juicy glow, and it protects and leaves your skin like beautiful, basically.
So true. And the other thing with Koa Life is we recognized, even further than the natural organic ingredients that are in it, that there's this thing with women where women tend to put themselves last always. We put our jobs, our boyfriend, our husband, our girlfriend, our kids before us. And we're like, we have this notion like, oh, I'll get back to taking care of me later and I'll put you right here. But we tend to not do that. So we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. So really bringing in this notion that we deserve to invest in ourselves, in our health, in our appearance, in our confidence. And we deserve to take time for self-care every day. That really happened, I think, a lot more through COVID. And we wanted to instill this through Co-Life. So Co-Life really is taking that 10 minutes a day to have your morning routine and your nighttime routine to set the tone for the rest of the day, to have a healthy daily practice, where you're having physical touch, gua sha massage, you're putting on these nutrient nourishing ingredients onto your skin, you're smelling the aromas of nature, you have a calm moment, so you start your day and end your day that way. It's a holistic approach to skincare. And so we wanted to give that to women and really re-educate women how to properly care for their skin and develop a healthy practice in their life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you mentioned how your spiritual journey impacted your entrepreneurial journey, because that's something that I've talked about before on my podcast, because I've found myself, and through knowing other entrepreneurs, that your entrepreneurial journey is a spiritual journey. You learn so much about yourself. You learn about yourself when you hit burnout. You learn about why you are so driven to success or to make a lot of money, like what's really underneath there. And so it's really common to then go through an awakening or a deeper understanding of yourself. A lot of people went through that with COVID as well, because we couldn't go out into the world, so we had no choice but to go internally within ourselves. And I really love that had an impact on the journey, and how you created Co-Life with a mission to empower women to take a holistic approach to take care of themselves.
Yeah. Totally agree. And you're so right. It's interesting to see version 1, 2, and 3 of you as you progress through life, through your journeys, your relationships, your companies, even other jobs, just like these different phases of transmuting and transcending certain chapters of your life. And we as twins certainly hold each other accountable, and we're always checking each other. So we really call each other out and challenge each other, but in a good way on the journey too, which is an even deeper layer to that whole thing of like really evolving as a woman. And going back to empowering women, everything we do these days has to do with building strong, healthy, educated women. The word koa in Hawaiian means warrior. So we had this notion of wanting to create healthy, strong skin, but healthy, strong women. Our whole life has been sort of empowering women and transcending adversity that we found from men on a personal level, and also as women in business, really transcending that adversity. So our whole mission was to create a community of strong women who are beautiful from the inside out. And we did this even further through partnering with the Girl Fund. And the Girl Fund is a charity that helps teen girls in developing nations create a future where they're thriving through different programs in education, job skill training, and legal aid, and all of these good things to help them thrive in their future. And so we donate partial proceeds of COA to the fund. We really work with them. We've been active philanthropists for several years now and been awarded for some of our work in fashion that we've done with Forbes and Tribeca. And so we wanted to really make sure that we were doing what we call a conscious beauty movement with this next chapter, this next company, and that we are creating conscious people who are really giving back, not just taking, but giving back. And the whole mission behind it is really to empower teen girls who are women of the future. So I love that notion. I know you do that too in everything that you do. And that's why we love everything that you do, is like, you totally get it. It's girl power all the way.
Yeah, it's so important as well, just the concept of women's empowerment from other women, because in the patriarchal society that we live in, we are taught from a young age to be in competition with each other, whether that's, competing for jobs, competing for attention, competing for somebody to marry. And when women, instead of competing with each other, support each other and uplift each other, we create a whole new world. And so it's been, for me, with branching out to doing the Embodied Babe and focusing on working with only women, has been so evolutionary for me, just to see how not just me helping other women, but then seeing the women in my community, how they uplift other women. And I think that's so important. So I did have a question. I was curious, you mentioned you were bullied in high school, specifically by boys. Yeah. And a lot of times when women are bullied, it's oftentimes by other women. So I wonder if that played into your passion for supporting and uplifting and empowering women through your businesses.
Yeah, 100%. I think our childhood probably directly affected everything that we do today, but we were both really badly bullied in high school. I actually had to switch schools because of it. And yeah, funny enough, it was by men. I was egged. I was physically bullied by boys in school to the point where I had to change schools. And I definitely think that that's a lot of the reasons why our whole mission is to empower women. It comes from a deep desire within. And it's just really important to us to incorporate that into everything authentically that we do.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, there's amazing men in the world. So by no means do we want to hate on men. Like right. We just want to see, I think the more feminine and powerful a woman can be, you can actually teach men this is what a real woman looks like. And that dynamic between what a real man should look like can also transpire so that when those people have kids and teach their kids, that can be transcended onto them through their children.
100%. And empowering women doesn't exclude men. It actually includes men, because without, we need all people to uplift women. We need all people to uplift men. It's just a matter of, that collective support. So I totally. Yeah, I totally understand that. And another question that I had was for some people that are listening who I get, like, I started off saying I get asked all the time about how do I start a business? I hate my job, I'm miserable, and I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know where to start. What would be your advice for young women, especially because you guys have so much success and so much experience, and things have changed since, like you said, you were doing kind of the old school way versus now there's social media and all these different tools. But I know you guys utilize those tools now too. So what would be your advice to somebody, let's say a young woman who's miserable at her job or just about to graduate high school and wants to start her own business venture?
I think probably the first thing I would say is do something that you're so passionate about, that you're really personally invested in. Do something that authentically fits into your life that you just really love doing. I think that just guarantees success, and whatever you end up doing, you're going to be married to. So it's not going to be just a job. It's going to be something that you're doing 24/7. So it has to be something that you just really authentically love.
Yeah, and I think having that brand story, that passion is what's going to turn cold audiences into loyal members of your community, and again, give you that staying power, because when you're married to your job, it's a commitment. So you really need to have that staying power and the passion to go through with it. And what I always tell women or girls, teen girls, when they ask me, what's your advice on starting a company? There's two things I have. One is more a state of mind, and then the other is actually an actionable plan. State of mind is so important, and this applies to anything you do as a woman. Like I say to women, get to a place of empowerment as quickly as you can, because that place where you are so grounded in your power, where you're really feeling into your intuition, that's a place you want to be to make good decisions. We're so blessed as women to be able to live one foot in this earthly world and one in really connected to source, where we have this feminine intuition. And when we're in a place of power, that's where the magic kind of comes out, where things flow gracefully to us with ease. We can call in, manifest things so easily. But when we're out of alignment with that, that's when things start to crumble, when we feel like we have to rely on someone or a guy, when we have to ask permission, when we don't feel big, we feel small. Those are when you make the decisions that are almost from a desperate place, but when you're in a place of power, they're always the right decision. So I always say, get to that place of power, because running your own company, it's full of highs and lows. So you have to really be able to feel into every partnership, feel into those people that promise, because there's people that promise, under deliver, people that will take advantage. So being able to feel into every situation is so important, and really trust yourself. And like for us, that's been a lifelong process. And I wish I had that insight when I was younger, but I'm finally kind of getting that now. And then when it comes to more tactical things, I always say, validate your concept before you launch. Make sure the concept works before you launch, because an idea is free, but a company is a commitment. So there's so many things you can do to test out your concept. You can research, do competitive analysis, really research the market. You can do surveys, create little communities, even between friends and families, to see if it works. So really test out before you launch. And as far as getting into the digital space, like when we worked with Revolve, we shifted from wholesale, traditional kind of OG sales to doing everything in the digital space. Everything was influencer marketing. We really saw the power of that. So if you're looking to go online specifically right now in this market, there's a lot of changes that are happening with Facebook, with ISO updates. So I know on a personal level, like really focus your business on the digital front onto Amazon and to TikTok. Those are two platforms that are really performing well right now. So those are just like little inside tips if you're planning to go into the digital world.
Yeah, thank you. That's such good advice. So I hope that whoever's listening is taking notes, because I agree with everything you said, and those are all tips that I wish that I had several years ago as well, because I also bootstrapped everything. I learned everything the hard way, you know, and I wouldn't change my journey, but it is really valuable to hear, you know, to hear what does work, and understanding, I like that you said, you know, a state of mind versus a plan, because it is also so important to have that confidence and that belief in yourself, because that is half of the journey right there, because you can figure out how to make a plan through using the internet and, you know, learning through other tools, books and mentors. But when it comes to your state of mind and your belief in yourself and your confidence in whatever your business is, or your product, or the message, the brand story, like you mentioned before, nobody can do that for you but you. And a lot of that also comes with self-development and working on yourselves, which you guys clearly have done a lot of as well.
And
absolutely.
I love that idea that just to remember that a mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. So it's not wrong. You know, you always up level every time you kind of fault in life, as long as you look at it as a proactive challenge to do better and to learn from it. So remembering that, and then also kind of remembering like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So just show up, you know, find people that show up for you. I would also say find your mentors, build your community, because you really do need that support as you grow. So the more you can have good people around you, that really makes a difference when you're growing your business and just like growing your path in life.
Yeah, 100%. So what is next for you guys? I know that right now, you told me before that Koa Life is going to be going into some stores, and what else do you have on the forefront?
Yeah, we're launching Koa Life in Target May 1st. Yay. So that's really exciting. We're in Urban Outfitters, Macy's, online. We're speaking to Nordstrom's.
Yeah, and we're doing a huge program with Ipsy, who we love. We adore working with Ipsy. And then, of course, we're pushing our online to our digital, which is going really well. So we've got a lot in the pipeline. We also just launched a few billboards around LA. I think we have like 6 going up over the next month. So really excited to see those campaigns up and just like a lot of hard work coming into fruition. And then we're just really expanding on what we're doing with the natural skincare brand. We also are in music, so we have summer shows coming up. So excited
for DJing
to kind of do that.
Been producing and writing and singing a little too. So we just released a bunch of new music, and we have some shows coming up that we booked. It's always really fun. It's such a good creative outlet, especially when you've got a lot going on work-wise. It's always fun just to like let loose a little and perform, and having that energy from an audience is such an amazing feeling. Such a great adrenaline high that you can't really get from anything else, and I absolutely love performing.
Yeah, and we keep saying we're going to go on vacation, but I think
it'll happen.
The plan just keep hustling at what we love to do, and we're so blessed that we get to work together, because honestly, it doesn't feel like work along a lot of the times when you have a twin. So we kind of lucked out in that regard.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I love that you make time for your creative passion as well with music and performing. And even though you do get booked, so I guess it technically is work, but it's still a lot of people that go into having their own business, that becomes their whole life, and then they lose sight of making time for their creative passion. So I think it's really important and great that you guys do that.
And I've had one of the comments that I always hear is that you guys should really just focus on one thing. I'm like, I don't want to focus on one thing. I have one life to live, and it's already gone by so quickly. I want to do all of the things that make me happy and make me like actually happy, that I enjoy. I love working. Every brand we've created, sometimes it's been really difficult. It's been so stressful, but you get through it. I've always loved everything I've done. It's been a passion project, not just a job for us. So every business we've started has been something we absolutely love doing, even when it's been really tough. And everything we do, including music, is something that just really brings us joy. So we're always doing what we love, I guess.
And I think with Koa, it's so interesting now that we're just even digesting it and talking about it. It really is an accumulation of our entire life story, you know, transcending, working through these issues, whether they're personal or skin issues, and really getting to a place of being strong and healthy and an empowered female. And that's now what we're trying to put out into the universe and into the market for other women. So it just feels good.
Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you guys so much coming on here and sharing your story and giving tips that I know are going to help listeners who are aspiring entrepreneurs, or maybe they already are entrepreneurs and they realize that, like you said, they thought they only could focus on one thing. I also, as you guys know, do all of these different things because life is short and we're all multifaceted beings, and it's so important to nurture all of those different different things, the things that you love, that maybe you don't do for money, but you just love it and it feels good and it lights up your soul. That allows you to be who you need to be so that you can show up good in business and your relationships. And so I appreciate you guys coming on here and sharing all of your magic.
Thank you. You too. We appreciate you too.
Of course. Where can everybody find you guys online?
On social, it's Naven Twins. So you can find us there. For our skincare brand, it's thatcoalife.com.
Yay. And I personally love Koa Life. I use it. It's 10 out of 10.
Your
it's
skin
so
is
good.
glowing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good. And I love that it's vegan and cruelty-free and clean and all of the things that I look for in products. So,
well, we're glad you like it. And also, you can keep a lookout for us on Flip. We're just about to onboard with them, and they have some amazing testimonials and reviews from customers. So we're really loving the new app.
Yay, amazing. Well, thank you guys, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Make sure you check out Koa Life and what the Naven Twins are up to on social media. And as always, sending you lots of love and light. Peace.